So, Mark Charlton, technical design leader at Carhartt. I'll introduce myself, a little bit about myself, and then we'll go around the virtual table, do intros, and then we'll dig into it. So, a very high level, again, technical design leader at Carhartt. I've been at Carhartt for 2.5 years. High level timeline of my career is essentially 10 years in manufacture. Domestic manufacturing in England, 10 years of D2C retail in England and mainland Europe, and then sort of 10 years in global wholesale brand. When I say global wholesale brand, it was mainly Nike and then PVH, so Calvin Klein, Tommy Hilfiger. And ironically now, I work at Carhartt, who are an owned and operated manufacturer. We are also a D2C retailer, and we're also a wholesale brand. So it feels like a good fit, pardon the pun. So that's a little bit about me. We'll go around the table. I'll call out names just to keep it going. So Morgan, do you want to go next?
Sure, absolutely. Hi, everyone. Morgan, co-founder of Bold Metrics. We have a technology AI powered for virtual fit. And the metaverse is something very near and dear to my heart. I actually read Snow Crash by Neil Stephenson when I was maybe 13, and then started using Second Life over a decade ago when it was first in beta, and then got pretty deeply involved with Bored Ape Yacht Club during Mint Week last year. And when Bored Ape Yacht Club bought their first land in the sandbox, me and a bunch of other folks bought land right next to them in the sandbox and have been, really, really excited about what they're doing with the other side and ApeCoin and all the stuff going on with Metaverse Fashion Week. And I will just second the fact that, Kerry, I'm assuming you are in Decentraland on that computer because you must have a crazy day today.
Yeah, I'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit.
Well, thank you, Morgan. Good to meet you. Christian, do you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. So hi, everybody. My name is Christian Pirch, and I want to keep my introduction fairly short because I'm really looking forward for this discussion today. First of all, thank you all for having me. I'm a project manager in the digital fitting lab for Hohenstein since almost 3 years. From when I started working with in 3D, depends on how you want to tell it. The topic of virtual fit has always been very important for me. And so I'm very glad to work on this in my daily business on many different product groups. And now with the ever-growing and important topic of the metaverse, companies are being offered completely new opportunities to present their products to the customers. And so now it's up to us. It's very important to discuss how we can bring virtual fit actually into play. And so to round it up, again, I'm very excited to be here and to discuss the topic in this great session today.
Well, we're glad you're here. Thank you. I'm doing in the order on my screen. So Sydney, do you want to go next?
Sure, thanks. Hi, I'm Sydney. I'm from straiqr.ai, CTO and co-founder. And I've been studying physics and economics and then went on to do a PhD in physics and AI. And that's what we pretty much use in our everyday business. So we merge cutting edge technology with fashion. That is not only the body scan and the virtual fitting on photos, but also on avatars. And what we try to do is really bring together the blockchain and AI and AR technology to create a platform that is really paving the way towards interoperable digital assets in the metaverse. So I'm really, really happy that this event's happening and that I'm part of it.
Well, again, good to have you here. Kerry, do you want to go next?
Yeah, super cool. Super excited to be here. I'm Kerry, one of the founders of the Fabricant. We do digital-only fashion because we're big believers that digital-only fashion will be much bigger than the physical fashion industry in the future. It's very early on. Doing kind of digital and physical at the moment is a great value proposition. But there's fantastic companies like all the other panelists on this panel working on that. So we just kind of big believers that digital-only fashion is going to solve a lot of the issues of the fashion industry. Virtual try-on is not really something that we do, but it's a big part of the operations that we do have here at the Fabricant. We're positioning ourselves kind of dead middle of the fashion industry, the gaming industry, and the crypto blockchain industry. Our company is about 50 people these days. It's a great combination between fashion designers, visual effects designers, and blockchain developers. And the challenge there is mainly a cultural challenge. How do you get fashion designers to work with blockchain developers, and how do you get them to cooperate and speak the same language? It's a great challenge. And a few people have already mentioned it. It is Decentraland Metaverse Fashion Week going on at the moment. We've been working very, very, very hard on that together with our community, because we're also big believers that the future of fashion is not anymore a centralized entity. So it's not anymore a fashion house that designs clothing and sells clothing for the community. We're actually big believers that the future of fashion is what we're doing, which is a digital fashion house, which is a decentralized ecosystem where we're actually getting our community to become part fashion designers. So we're saying that we're enabling everybody to be a digital fashion designer. And that's what we're doing with Decentraland at the moment as well. We did season 1 a few months back, where more than 2,000 people came to mint and create their own digital fashion items. And now, together with our community, we're actually presenting part of that collection at the Decentraland Metaverse Fashion Week in the upcoming days. So it's super exciting, and we're big believers that this is the way we're going to scale the digital fashion industry, because we simply cannot be creating millions and millions of assets and be bringing it to these multiple different places in the metaverse. We believe that we need to do it with the community, and that's what we're starting this week with the Decentraland Fashion Week, which is super exciting and in many different ways.
Wow. Well, we're super happy to have you here.
Thank you.
Steve, do you want to go next?
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, and it's great to be on this panel with all of my esteemed colleagues. It's fantastic. My name is Steve Meany. I am the Global Vice President of Sales and Marketing at Reactive Reality. And for those that don't know, we are an end-to-end platform that can help you all with your shopper needs, right? Like a virtual fitting room and digital fashion, et cetera. So when I say end-to-end, we actually have put together a platform that can deal with digital garments, or taking the physical and making them digital, or starting with digital, as well as actually the process of creating digital mannequins or digital avatars, as well as the step that is all around the visualization of mixing and matching wardrobes. And then last, but of course not least, that size recommendation and visualization piece as well. So putting all of that together, giving our shoppers a lot more of what they've come to know and love in the real world, which is a lot of fun and engagement in shopping, and a lot of understanding and confidence around fit, making sure that it's the right choice for them. Reactive Reality is roughly 60 colleagues and I, and we are very proud of what we put together, and at the same time know that there's a ton of work to do. And I can't echo Kerry's comments enough. This is all about a collective. This is all about a community, and this is all about helping us all move forward, because quite frankly, a lot of what is out there in the world today is in some cases bad behavior, right? Around over purchasing, over returning. This isn't great for shoppers. It's not great for their experience. It's not great for business. It's not great for the bottom line. And it's really not great for the planet. And so we need to figure this out. And when I say we, I mean that purposely. We need to figure this out. So I'm looking forward to today's discussion. And if you have any questions after today, you can always reach out to me. I'm sure they've got my contact information.
Well, thank you.
Started.
And what a great panel, by the way. And I need to, in full disclosure, so I've been working in fit for almost 30 years. So I know physical fit really well. I'm beginning to understand virtual fit. I'm a newbie when it comes to the metaverse. And I volunteered to host this essentially to learn, right? So I'm hoping that you will all talk way more than me. So let's dive into it. I think the first question is essentially the title of this panel, right? Which is, how critical is solving virtual fit as we move into the metaverse? Anybody want to take a stab at that?
Well, I'll maybe kick it off and really just kind of dovetail off of what Kerry had said. Because I really think that, the vision that he presented is really how I see the world changing, right? Is that digital fashion and digital clothing, the adoption rate is we're already seeing it's astronomical. It's only going to continue to accelerate. And what you're really seeing is the ability to give people the opportunity to express themselves, which is really what clothing and fashion has always been about. And fit is definitely a core part of that. And so, going back to some of what Steve was saying, Kerry was saying, but it really starts with the community, right? And so it's looking at, if you look right now, there's over 50 brands that are a part of, Decentraland Fashion Week that's kicking off. Diesel has announced some really interesting intersections where they have both physical NFTs and the ability to claim, in real life apparel. And I think that's probably what is going to be one of the initial catalysts of bringing, Mark, to what you were saying of like, hey, you've been in fit for a long time, but you haven't been in the metaverse. I think it's going to be that intersection. And, one of the, I think, brands that has done an exceptional job of this was really a metaverse first brand, which is Bored Ape Yacht Club. And when they released their first merch, I think it sold out, in like 5 minutes. Some of the stuff sold out in like a minute. And then they also dropped, like when they created their hoodie, they also provided everybody that was originally in Bored Ape Yacht Club with a Decentraland Bored Ape Yacht Club hoodie, which is still my favorite piece of apparel that I own in the metaverse. But I think that's the intersection that's going to pull it through the keyhole is customers that are creating avatars in Decentraland, in the sandbox, in Yuga Labs' other side when that comes out, and being able to see an intersection of, okay, I'm wearing this because Diesel made this really neat thing, or Forever 21 made this really cool digital asset, but this has now become part of my identity. And I would like to see the intersection of this with IRL. And that's where, well, if it looks good on my avatar, it also has to look good on me. And that's where you really see an intersection of both the metaverse and the physical world coming together.
Anybody want to piggyback onto that?
Yeah, I completely agree with what you said. I think that's the most important part, actually, to also get this connection going on between the physical world and the metaverse. You can imagine easily walking through a virtual mall, picking your real life clothing. I think that's super interesting for itself. But we should at the same time not forget, also, as you mentioned, the metaverse is really an opportunity to express yourself and take on forms that are not at all physical and wear things that are physically impossible. So I think there are these two sides to the whole thing that are both equally important.
So I guess there's what I'm understanding, there's two sides, right? There's a side that is replicatable in the physical world, and then there's a side that is not, right? And you could say, so there's a I want to replicate myself in the metaverse, right? And I want this jacket to fit like this in the metaverse, and then I could replicate. I could almost create an alter ego, right? And I could create products in the metaverse that I don't want to recreate in a physical space, right? So if you double click on the piece that is a replication, right? And then you say, well, if I've created an avatar that is a replication of me, and I'm buying digital fashion, how important is it that digital fashion is replicatable in the physical world, aka virtual try-on?
It depends who you're speaking to, right? And depends what the needs are. Many people, of course, would love to have both versions. I think what Bored Apes has done great. You have the physical merch, but I don't believe anybody from the Bored Apes community is like, I need my digital replica of the hoodie to be the exact version as the physical one, that it needs to fit exactly. I think it's a little bit of a contradiction to be talking about virtual try-on in the metaverse when virtual try-on typically means to try on a physical product virtually to see how it fits and how it looks on you, then to sell the physical product more down the line. When in the metaverse, fitting is not a thing. It doesn't need to perfectly fit your body. It needs to look good. And I always say, like, in 3D, if it looks good, it's correct. In the real world, it's different. It needs to fit. It needs to feel good as well. It needs to look good. It needs to feel good, and the fit needs to be proper around the shoulders. And we can go really deep down into the craftsmanship of how clothing should fit our physical bodies. But in the metaverse, it's a completely different discussion. And especially for us, when we talk about fitting in the metaverse, and when we talk about virtual fitting for our digital avatars, of course, we bring the same logic and the same traditional craftsmanship into the process. But we don't need to be correct to the physical world. We don't need to really respect what happens in the physical world. Well, how can we push the boundaries? How can we really, as Sydney was saying, how can we just do stuff that's not physically possible? How can we really, how can we challenge our norms? How can we challenge the status quo? How can we fully just challenge all the norms of the traditional fashion industry and just do the complete opposite in the metaverse? And I think that's the huge opportunity, is to go away from how we traditionally do things physically, because it's a completely different world. It's really the logic, and the question should be why would we want to replicate stuff in the metaverse? What is the value of replicating the real world in the metaverse? And both apply. The digital twinning of the physical world in the metaverse is going to be valid, but it's who you speak to, because some people will want those exact replicas of the physical fashion in the metaverse, and some people will just want crazy stuff that you can never do. But what I think that people will want, and what I want both. I want my physical clothing in the metaverse, but I also want stuff that I don't have physically. So I think that's the richness, and that's the value add in the long run.
To build off that comment, and just really quickly, how important is fit for a virtual fitting room in real life? It is the most important. Maybe 1A, 1B with photorealism of the garments, right? So people know what they get. So fit, supremely important. I love what Kerry said, and I just have one simple word: gravity. He doesn't have to deal with gravity. We in the real life have to deal with gravity. And just that alone means that that's it. It doesn't have to be more complicated than that. And, good, right? Don't deal with gravity if you don't have to, right? It weighs us down, pun intended. Okay. Anyway, real quick, we might want to get on to another question, but who knows?
To the question, I would like also to add that when we think about replicating the original fit from the real world in digital, that we are on the way to keep our mind occupied, that we have to replicate everything in real life to digital, which is, from a technical point, not possible in every term of digital or virtual fitting right now. So what I think would be more important at this moment, because metaverse is a very great way to start storytelling, to think about how can we get customers involved to interact with our brand. And I think to start with virtual fit, it's very difficult. And I think there are some other topics that need to be resolved right now. And for me, metaverse, that's also one question I had when thinking about how critical is it? Is it critical for us as a brand to know this will definitely fit you, or is the user's intention when going to the metaverse and trying on our stuff just design? Is it about the color? Is it about the fit? Talking about an A shape, a straight shape, or whatever. Is it about design, or is it actually about something different? So what's the value behind the metaverse virtual fit?
And I'll just add one more piece here, because I think Kerry's really spot on in what he was saying, which is that it is a little bit contradictory, right? Because there really is no notion of and I remember actually talking to a friend that we had both bought Bored Apes and we both got our Decentraland hoodie. And I remember he had said to me, "Oh, well, will it come in the same size as the physical hoodie I ordered?" And I said, "Different concept. You're thinking of the old way." And just like Kerry said, the Decentraland hoodie, there is no, and this is kind of Christian, going back to what you were just talking about, which is that right now in the, Decentraland Fashion Week, there's 50 brands that are showing off their digital garments, those garments don't come in small, medium, large. Those garments actually just fit and look great on the avatars. And, to Steve's point, no gravity, also no reality. It's the metaverse. And so it goes back to that self-expression and people really getting a chance to interact with and experience a brand in an entirely new way. And I think what that will do is, take somebody that maybe they haven't worn Diesel, or they haven't worn Forever 21, or they haven't worn a brand, and they get it for their avatar and they start to wear that. And that becomes part of their digital identity. And then there's that intersection to their physical identity.
You sort of inspired another question. So we'll go off script if you don't mind. But if you sort of fast forward, however many, insert number of years, where a consumer is essentially going to have a physical identity and a digital identity. They're going to have a physical closet, they're going to have a digital closet, right? Now, where we are right now is our physical closet probably way outnumber our digital closets, right? Fast forward, again, insert number of years. The question is, what does that balance look like? Is it a 50-50? Is it an 80-20, right? And then, double question, what do the influences look like? Because right now, the physical world is influencing the metaverse, right? Fashion that's happening, and Kerry, you might agree or disagree, I'm not sure. Fashion that's happening in the physical world is influencing fashion in the metaverse. What does that influence look like going forward?
Yeah, I'll give my quick thoughts about that. First of all, the virtual wardrobe will be infinite. It will be millions of items, and my physical wardrobe is going to get less and less. My physical wardrobe is already too full. I think there's some data from a few years back where we used to talk about that we only wear 20% of the stuff in our wardrobe, actually. I would say for myself, I wear maybe 40 to 50% of the stuff out of my wardrobe. And I'm still trying to downsize it the whole time. But my physical wardrobe, it doesn't feel like clutter. It just constantly I keep adding stuff there all the time. Well, I work very closely to fashion designers, so it's very easy. And I think, everybody will have that because it's not going to be clutter anymore, or physical clutter taking space. It's just going to be infinite amount of stuff that you can fit on there. And to your second point about the physical fashion industry influencing the digital wardrobe or the digital fashion industry, that's going to be part of it. But there is a little bit of an existential battle between the new creators and the old world. We talk about Web 2 versus Web 3. I always question, how can a traditional corporate hierarchical fashion corporation be able to exist in the Web 3, which is flat hierarchy, which is about decentralization of power, which is all about community building? How are they going to be able to enter that world? So it's going to be a little bit of a challenge. We've seen Nike purchasing Artifact, which is their kind of move towards the metaverse. We see Adidas jumping in with Bored Apes and some other activations. But are they going to be able to exist within the demand and the questions that the community right now has, which is really about being a participant, becoming an active participant in the industry rather than a passive observer? And I think Adidas has had this notion to their vision before, where they actually want to make the consumer a part designer. But it's much harder in the physical fashion industry. They've done Speed Factory, they've done some other ones as well. And I think they closed everything down because it's very hard to involve the consumer to be part of the design experience. Now it's going to be very easy to do that. Well, somewhat easy to do that in the metaverse space. So I think what the true opportunity is, and what I really hope that the traditional fashion players will start doing in the metaverse play, is to include their consumers to become users, to become co-creators, essentially, where we're going to start seeing that, hey, actually, I can co-design together with Louis Vuitton. I can customize. So, customization is a thing in the fashion industry, but now we go more into personalization and beyond personalization, where we actually start calling the old consumers now the co-creators or the co-designers. That's the opportunity that exists right now. Where we're going to end up in, I'm not really sure. It's very early days. But what I do know from fashion brands, they all want to jump onto the metaverse opportunity. But we might this year already see NFT fatigue or metaverse fatigue once people start realizing how technically difficult it actually is. And we saw it at the beginning of the pandemic when everybody started doing digital product creation all of a sudden, and they realized that you cannot be doing 400 luxury fashion items within the 3 days for a catwalk. So that's kind of traditionally how the fashion industry works, that you need months and months of preparation and completely new teams. So I think there's a lack of understanding and lack of skill set and expertise right now to make that huge leap. So it will need to be kind of an incremental steps towards the metaverse. But I'm already super excited to see all the different brands that have joined the Decentraland Metaverse Fashion Week. Nike's jumping with Artifact, super exciting. Adidas, everybody's looking into it, and I think everybody's super excited about the space.
To respond to that, I do hear your challenge, Kerry, and Kerry, it is all about content creation in the metaverse, right? And people think that it's very challenging. And there are platforms out there, and I will just sort of represent ours right now, that can actually take standard fashion photography and also physical garments and can do it at scale in the tens of thousands of garments, like in a month, if not more. And so I know it's not infinite, but the fact that, and it's getting faster. So what's interesting is I actually think we are now at an intersection where brands can actually quickly get up to speed. They can have a massive wardrobe today in the metaverse. The challenge, and I think you rightly point out, is are they just looking to sell in a new channel, or are they looking to participate? And that'll be up for consumers to decide. But the idea that content is slowing down the metaverse, that's no longer a hurdle in my mind. And from there, people can decide if they want to customize, personalize, et cetera. But the digital, like the content has to exist, and it has to exist in a user-friendly format. So if that's, to your point around, there's maybe not enough talent out there, like people just need to get more comfortable, let's say, with things like OBJ files and working in 3D and things like that. But for the most part, like, it's totally available now, and for Reactive and for others.
So just to bring a little bit of extra topic to it and challenge you a little bit, because there's a big challenge, and it's not about the content creation, but how are you solving interoperability? So when it comes down to creating all of these assets, maybe it's fine to create a pipeline for one certain deliverable, but how are you solving Decentraland assets to Sandbox assets to Unity to Unreal Engine? That's kind of like the big challenge that I think, which is slowing down, let's say, the metaverse. Of course, the brands can jump in, but they can't jump in everywhere. They can only jump on one channel right now. I'm sorry, I don't know your product.
No, it's great. So yeah, we have a software development kit that basically can take OBJs, and we have our own rendering engine. So like, how do you render it essentially? Is that the question?
Well, not how do you render it? How do you make it interoperable so you can be on multiple different channels at the same time?
That's the complexity I've seen also with, going back to this example, because I think it's a good example. A lot of people that were early in NFTs that bought Bored Apes got a Decentraland hoodie. That cannot be used in the Sandbox. It cannot be used in Roblox. It cannot be used in Yuga Labs, Otherworlds yet. There will be a way maybe to connect them. But yeah, Kerry, I agree. I think that there is probably an underestimation of the challenge involved in taking what is now, a move to 3D design, which is great, and we're very, very supportive of. But then actually creating that in the metaverse and in multiple metaverses, having it interoperable and actually look good, that's a big challenge. And I think it's okay that hasn't been solved. I think that's actually one of the most exciting and challenging, pieces to tackle on the road ahead.
To be honest,
to answer the question directly, Morgan, I think you bring up a really good point.
It's not even a big issue to make them assets interoperable when it comes to the computer vision part of it. It's pretty much about the count of polygons and all of that. But honestly, there's many, many more challenges ahead of us. For example, take the whole blockchain technology. I mean, how many people are actually using NFTs on Ethereum? How difficult is it for them to create a wallet, to buy cryptocurrency? So I think one of those challenges is also to make that process much more convenient for the user.
Yeah, I think I want to add another challenge to that, because we've talked a lot about technical issues that are around us right now to make the assets we create interoperable between all the metaverses we have right now. But one thing which is also very important for the companies in the future is talking about collaboration. I truly believe in collaboration is the future for companies between customers to really harden the relationship. But what is very important for the companies when collaborating with the customers is to staying true to the heritage. So digital heritage is very, very important. And one thing which is the heritage of the DNA of a company is the fit. So design is one thing, and fit is the base of the design coming after all the other stuff. But true DNA from a company, talking about physical garments, is definitely the fit. So the pattern making. And when we talk about collaborating, it's very important to stay true to your heritage. And this is a little bit different from what we've talked about before. But I want to bring into your mind that that's very important to have the companies keep their digital heritage, if you know what I mean.
And I guess, and again, I'm the new guy trying to understand this. So different worlds within the metaverse, right? One question is, today you can't take apparel that's purchased in one world to a different world, right? Is that a problem we need to solve, or should they be separate? Should we keep them separate? To Christian's point about DNA, it's like, do the worlds then start to take on a certain DNA that would only be relevant to potentially one brand and one fit, right? Or one collection of brands, right? In one world, and another world takes on a different view. So would you need to go between them?
I think we can look to the past for the answer to the future, which is if you have a closed ecosystem, you're going to have more control, but slower adoption versus an open ecosystem. So it's just, for me, it's just no more complex than that.
Okay.
In terms of sort of the interoperability, it is a challenge, right? In one sense, and that's to Morgan's point. Does it look "quote unquote" good? Mm-hmm. That's the only challenge I see, because the different rendering engines are actually going to basically reform a simple OBJ file in different ways in different environments. And so, if there are some core players and they want to come up with standards, that would, right, like on behalf of everyone who we can't see on this panel discussion, right, the audience, like, please come together, figure it out. Interoperability would be wonderful. Can we all play nice in the sandbox in real life and in the cloud? And I don't know that that's going to happen anytime soon, because there's money at stake, right? There's investments at stake. And I do think, though, if folks will have a more open ecosystem, there will be more interoperability, because there will be some of this stuff will get standardized. And as a result, adoption will only happen that much faster.
Before I come back to your first question, because there was only one response so far, and I kind of agree to what Kerry said, though. I'd say it's more like 50-50 when it comes to the count of wardrobes in the physical world and in the virtual world. And what I see is a synthesis, actually, between the physical and the virtual world, in the sense that you buy something physical and it immediately has its virtual side. So it's more like an extension of the physical product, which really allows for a deeper experience of that very product also in the digital world. So when that happens, it becomes obvious that, everyone that has a physical wardrobe will also have a virtual wardrobe.
I think just kind of last point on this, Mark, going back to your original question, I think it will be fairly different because of the way that self-expression works in the metaverse versus the real world. Like what I'm wearing right now is like kind of what I wear every day. Like this is what I look like in the real world. If you see my avatar in Decentraland, I wear much more expressive stuff. It's fun. I can do that. That's a very accepting space for that. Same with the sandbox. And then if you look at, what you guys are doing with Animoca and the other side, they're going to allow that self-expression through other NFT collections. So, not just Bored Apes, but they hinted in their video that it'd also be Cool Cats and World of Women and all other collections, which now these NFTs have become part of people's digital identities. And so I think then you'll have a little bit of a bifurcation where, yes, you're going to take some of the stuff that you have in your normal closet and you'll wear that in the metaverse, but you'll also have some fashion. And I think, honestly, the Fabricant's probably the best example of this, of creating stuff that is specifically for the metaverse for people to be able to express themselves in ways that they couldn't do in the real world. And that changes the game completely. And I think that's one of the most exciting things about where all this is going.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I also believe that the number of items you're going to have in the virtual world is much greater, especially when you consider the customer co-creation that was already mentioned between brands and the users, and also going beyond what's physically possible. So yeah, certainly you'll have much more possibility to express yourself virtually, but still the count of wardrobes is identical.
I guess these are the potentially naive questions, right? But I'm assuming there's a resale market, right, in the metaverse, right? If you've got, an unlimited closet, then you can resell, right? Is anybody having a conversation about counterfeiting in the metaverse? Is anybody concerned about that?
It happened, by the way, in Second Life. And it was a huge issue. There's actually documentaries about this, of people that became fashion designers, architects, furniture designers in Second Life. And that became their primary income source. And then there was counterfeiting. The interesting thing about when you compare Second Life, and a lot of people say, I don't get it. Like for people that are Second Life users, they're going, I've been in the metaverse for 10 years, but walled garden. Right. And that's where NFTs come in. Right. So counterfeit, sure, but much, much, much harder because, anybody can right click and save my Bored Ape, but I am the one and only authentic owner of every Bored Ape I have, of every Cool Cat I have, of every Decentraland hoodie I have. And so that's where it changes. In Second Life, you could counterfeit because they were not verifiably unique. In the metaverse, NFTs have given us the power to make it verifiably unique so that a counterfeit can actually be identified.
I figured it was a naive question, but I wanted to ask it. There's a question that's come from the audience, and I'll sort of paraphrase a little bit, but it's essentially about unit of one manufacture, right? And if we look at this concept of co-creation, which, by the way, I think is fantastic, right? So I can go into the metaverse, I can co-create with a brand, I can create my own unique piece. And now maybe I want to replicate that in the physical world. So we need this mechanism of unit of one manufacture. So do you guys see that as a sort of dependency or more of an enabler? Or not even relevant?
I would say it's more of an enabler, really, because it pushes the way the fashion industry could produce. And it will also be very beneficial to the sustainability aspects of it all, right? So yeah, I would say it's an enabler, but it poses a challenge. Unit one production may be possible for easy print on demand type of garments where the cut is identical and not really fitted to your individual body. But once the body is analyzed in great detail and the cut is also performed in a unit one manufacturing way, then it becomes very, very interesting. And I think we're heading there, and it would be great for the planet.
And actually, just looking at the question here, this is really neat what he's talking about, saying, a digital store with a virtual fitting room, which could safely store body scans on the blockchain. And actually, in January of this year, Bold Metrics, we put in a patent for the world's first body data NFT. And that's the idea, is being able to have your digital identity, your actual body data stored in an NFT on the blockchain, which then is interoperable with, the body data itself is interoperable with any metaverse, because anyone that has an Ethereum-based wallet can have an ERC 1155 token that can have their body data on it, and that can come from, whatever source they want. But then they are able to do a fitting in the metaverse, and maybe they find a shirt they like, or they find some pants they like. And rather than have to go, right now, it'd be a very disjoint experience to go from that to a website and then looking at a size chart. Instead, we actually have the ability now to have that body data stored as an NFT, connect directly to that sizing, get them the right size, so it's push button, and then what their avatar is wearing, they can actually get in real life.
So that actually brings it almost full circle, because we started off saying, well, how critical is virtual fit? And we went down a path of like, well, actually it's not, right? Because of this sort of, for want of a better word, like alter ego, gravityless sort of world. But then if you take it down, Morgan, if you take it down that path, then virtual fit does become much more, much more critical.
Yeah. And, I think it will start with, kind of going back to what Kerry was saying, I don't think it will start with people trying on a medium and trying on a large in the metaverse. I think it will be, they have something from the Fabricant or some, a Web3 native brand that maybe does something in partnership with a traditional Web2 brand, where their avatar is wearing something, they like that, they want to get in real life, but they may not want to, this concept of taking things that we've had in the past, like shopping malls, like stores, and just replicating them in the metaverse. I don't think that's how it's actually going to evolve. I think we have to think about a completely different experience. And that means that really the experience around fit and sizing should be seamless, where somebody can try something on, they like the way it looks. And going back to what Christian was saying about like the brand's heritage, the brand is going to know, here's how, if it's an oversized garment, it'll look oversized on their avatar. If it's meant to be skin tight, it'll look skin tight. And then there can just be a push button experience of buy what my avatar is wearing for me in real life. And all the calculations of the body data and connecting that to the garment all happens transparently. And the user just gets that at their door.
Hey, Morgan, I have a question just out of curiosity. Isn't it an issue that the body measurements aren't static? I mean, once you put an NFT out there, it's written on the blockchain forever, right? So do you need a new NFT once you have other body measurements?
No, this is great. So this is the same thing that Bored Ape Yacht Club and a lot of the other NFTs do, which is you do have the ability to update metadata on ERC 721 and ERC 1155 tokens. And so, as somebody's body changes, we actually have two options. They can update the metadata on that NFT, or they could mint a new NFT if they want to retain the history.
Right. So the important information is stored in the metadata only, and the NFT itself, which purpose does it serve? Accessibility?
Yeah. So then essentially your body data, so you have, over 50 body measurements stored in an NFT, essentially as if you stepped into a body scanner. And then what you're able to do is, I'm looking at a pair of jeans in the metaverse and I put them on, and maybe this particular brand has jeans that are skinny jeans and it looks the way it's supposed to look. And then I can just hit a button, my body data is stored, we know the information about that garment, and we're able to get it to that customer in that size.
Awesome.
So I guess two questions, and one of them is going back to the script, right? And one of them is a continuation of this, right? So I start to think about consumer expectations, right? So if I'm creating products in the metaverse, I can do it almost instantaneously, right? Now, if we say that unit of one manufacturer is an enabler, right? That if I create this product and then I want to go buy this product, there's going to be a lag, right? It's going to take some time, again, insert number of days, weeks, to get, a physical version of what I've created in the metaverse. Do you see that being a challenge, a problem, an issue?
I don't really think so.
Some practice.
Steve, sorry.
I don't think. Oh no, I was going to say I don't think it's a problem. It'll take some practice, right? It'll be just like with anything, it will institute potentially a few new steps in a time-honored practice or process. And so, yeah, I see it just being a process challenge. But maybe Christian, you see it differently.
Yeah, definitely. And I think also we have to show the value of this process on designing and getting your clothes actually personalized, because everything we are talking about, collaboration and all of this stuff, virtual try on, this is going in a way for hyper personalization. So I could try on everything in digital and then go to the physical store, to a typical old brick and mortar store. The people there know my style, they know me because I've tried on this and that in virtual. And it would be also great because artificial intelligence is also evolving. We could connect this with the brands to show, okay, we have a few recommendations for you. There are some new stuff. If it's either for your virtual store, for your virtual cloth, or for your physical cloth, we could connect all this and make it a hyper-personalized story for the customer. And that in the end will also bring one value that everything you have is fitted to your body, because we can start with the digital or the virtual fit. And then we can bring on the value that everything will be fitted exactly to you, which is actually, I think, the dream of everyone who's buying clothes is going into the store and it fits exactly.
So potentially, again, I'll sort of summarize, right? So I've been in fit and size my entire career. What I'm taking away is it absolutely disrupts the sort of size constructs that we've become to know, right? Small, medium, large, 32, 34, 36, whatever. It totally disrupts all those constructs. I'm saying,
yeah.
Okay.
Yes. And mental health returns to billions of people.
Yes.
Throughout the world.
It would be nice if I go shopping and would be size Christian and not size whatever.
But yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. I mean, we have a shift happening to on demand. I mean, I think we're all going to look both crazy and wasteful when people look back 50 years from now and go, wait a second, you tried to guess how many people wanted to buy this, and like, oh, well, now everyone just buys it. Yeah, in size Christian, in size Morgan, in size Kerry, and it's made for that person when they order it.
So it's essentially the made to measure model, right?
At scale. Digitally at scale, yeah.
So one of the questions that was around essentially customers or consumers, what are their triggers? And I'm rephrasing the question slightly to keep it on topic, but what are their triggers as they're purchasing or co-creating product in the metaverse, right? So if you think about your trigger as you purchase a physical garment today, there's, fabric is generally high up on the hierarchy, right? I like the touch and feel of that fabric. Now, I'm going to guess that fabric's low down in the hierarchy of the metaverse, right? So question is, and you may or may not have thought of this, but what is the hierarchy when creating a product? Is it more about the aesthetic and more about the color and the design, and then perhaps the fit in the fabric? Any thoughts on that?
Design leads. I think the number one question people will be asking, like, how does it look? Does it make me look cool? It's not like, how do I feel in it? How does the fabric feel like? How does it fit my body? The materials is a thing, but again, from a visual standpoint, the things that we speak about with the Fabricant always, what is the true value of digital fashion? It's on the identity side of things. It's on the narrative, the storytelling side of things, because we're not covering our bodies. We're not keeping ourselves warm in the metaverse. We're only worried about, how do I look like in the metaverse? How do I differentiate myself from the crowd? How do I make myself pop? How do I get seen when there's like hundreds of different avatars around? How do I become the one that everybody sees? Or the opposite, how do I just kind of like blend into the background so people don't see me? It really comes down to, what is the narratives, the storytelling? How do you feel during the day? And yeah, just like how do you see your place? How do you want to position yourself within this certain ecosystem? that you want to engage in? Those are the most important questions.
I completely agree. And I believe it goes way deeper than just the question, does it look cool? And you expanded already on some aspects of it. And I think the most important fit is no longer really to the actual body measurements, but really to the personality who is wanting to wear that digital item, expressing themselves, as you said, really on a day-to-day basis. How do I feel? What do I want to express? What do I think about certain events, maybe in real life and also in the virtual world? And all of that, I think, is going to be much higher up on the hierarchy.
Yeah, I look a lot of times at like Fortnite as an example. I'm a Fortnite player. I don't know if anyone else here is, but skins is how Fortnite makes money. And just to share like how big that market is, the music and movie industry does 35 billion a year. The gaming industry does 127 billion a year, and 78% of that is free to play, which means they're generating 78% of that 127 billion, which is significantly bigger than movies and music combined, just by in-game assets. And if you look at Fortnite, which is like one of the market leaders, those assets are clothing, essentially outfits called skins that have absolutely no effect on your gameplay and no notion of fabric outside of visual, but it's all about expression. And when I first started playing Fortnite, I thought, this is silly. Why would anybody change their skin in Fortnite? This doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make a difference in how you play. And now I probably buy 2 to 3 new skins a month because it's part and parcel with my experience in the game. And that's really, like what Kerry is talking about. It's the design. It's how it makes them feel and their ability to express themselves within these virtual worlds, which is really a lot more open and free than in the real world, where we have had these constraints of, if you go back not too long ago, we were all wearing, button-down shirts and slacks to meetings. And, then we went through a 2-year period where we wore like sweatpants to every meeting. And now we're kind of going back into reality. But I think some of that's changing. And I think the metaverse will only further that focus on design and self-expression.
So I've got to ask, how many skins do you own?
Oh boy. Over 100 at this point.
And I mean, my son plays Fortnite, so I purchase a lot of skins for him. And I guess this question is not necessarily relevant to Fortnite and skins, but it's relevant to, I guess, apparel in the metaverse. The concept of outfitting, right? So I co-create a pair of jeans, right? And then I co-create a hoodie, and then I co-create some sneaks, and down. That concept of outfitting, where is it on the journey? How easy is it to put outfits together? Again, in Fortnite, you're buying a skin, you're buying one outfit, and it's it's got some accessories and that kind of stuff. But if you wanted to do that separately and switch it, and maybe it's connected to that concept of interoperability, I wondered where we are on that journey.
Yeah, let me just quickly go into that. We've done work with fashion brands doing digital twins. We used to talk about DPC all the time and how much time it took to make a T-shirt versus a complex item. This can really go from 1 hour to several days to make that translation. When you have tech packs, once you have all the patterns and all of that. But when we really go into the design side of things, we're designing for the metaverse. Well, how much time do you put into creativity? You can work on it as long as you want. We just shifted into a new phase with the Fabricant, and we have a team of 7 digital-only fashion designers working on accessories, working on clothing, working on key looks, only for the metaverse itself. They've been working on this collection for months, and it just keeps going. And I'm like, today I asked, when are we going to launch this? They're like, June, July, August. I'm like, oh my God, it's really taking long. But we have the means and the resources in place right now to be designing for the metaverse, and it's a multiple collection. It's going to be Snapchat, accessories that we're going to be able to wear on this Zoom call. It's going to be AR filters. It's going to be optimized assets for NFT games. It's going to be possible to share it on social media. So it's thinking big for this collection itself. but you can be putting together digital T-shirts within a few minutes. That's how fast it goes. It really is much faster than in the real world, but it can take as long as you want as well. It's like, what is the deadline you put into it? That's kind of the biggest question.
Well, I guess it disrupts those traditional deadlines, right? Those traditional fall, winter, spring, summer, etc.
Yeah. The seasonality goes away. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I've still got tons of questions, but we've got just a couple of minutes left. So again, I wanted to go around the virtual. It's been such a pleasure to converse with all of you, and I've learned a ton in the last hour. So I thank you for that. Any final thoughts or statements from each of you?
Once again, I think I will repeat myself from the introduction. I will keep it short and on point. I think what we found out today in our discussion is that not only the customer in the future will benefit from all the digital development from the metaverse itself, and I think it's also a huge chance for the companies to get in touch with the customers and to improve their actually sustainability with all the technology which is evolving right now. So I'm very, very optimistic for the future.
I'm also going to keep it very, very short, and I'll quote one of our digital fashion partners, DressX: buy digital. Start buying digital. If you haven't yet, start buying digital only clothing.
Real quick, I would say thank you again for hosting this. Obviously, the topic is as big as the metaverse, so not enough time. So if folks want to continue the conversation, definitely reach out, and happy to continue the conversation.
One surprising takeaway for me is that we're all on the same page when it comes to the Unit 1 manufacturing, and I'd say really let's try and push it to go full circle, go to the digital world, have the body data NFTs, and let's produce on demand. I think we want it, and the planet needs it.
And I'll keep it short as well and just say that I think, for everybody, if you haven't gone into Decentraland, if you haven't gone into the Sandbox, if you haven't tried Roblox, do that. There's a lot of discussion now about the metaverse and a lot of people trying to figure it out. And I've seen so many people that are like, I'm trying to understand the metaverse. I'm like, oh, cool. Like, what do you think about Decentraland versus the Sandbox? And they're like, oh, I haven't tried those yet. Like, go in and do them. They're free to use. You can play around in them. It's the best way. Learn, explore, and yeah, like Kerry said, buy digital.